Hey guys, I'm Aussie Expat. I'm going to try to keep this casual. This will be my first watch review on this channel, despite doing YouTube for a very long time and watches for a very long time. I've never really reviewed a watch. And right now, I think there's a lot of you out there that are missing out. You're straight up missing out because you haven't got this watch. So today I'm reviewing the BB58.
Just kill no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression. Could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody.
And the reason I'm doing this is because honestly, it's one of my OP watches, overpowered. From the perspective that, yeah, I paid MSRP plus tax for it, and compared to its value, I wear this the most. Out of any of my other watches, this one is the biggest bang for buck, despite having, 6 Steel Sports Rolexes, a Speedmaster. This gets the most wrist time compared to its value. Now, that's partly because I'm conscious of I've got these other watches that I should be wearing and I shouldn't be wearing this one because it's the cheapest. It's sort of like a conscious thing. But if I just let everything sort of just settle out in terms of what I truly feel like wearing, honestly, I think this is one of my most worn watches, if not the most worn. Especially if you count the days where it hasn't been my primary watch, where I'd wear this throughout the day and then maybe I'd wear, a Rolex out or something like that. On that day, I'm going to say, well, the watch that I wore out is the watch that counts for me that I wore that day. And in some ways that's true, in some ways it's not, right? I didn't wear it for most of the day, but the reality is that I wear this watch a lot. And could I wear this to a restaurant and those other places I've swapped on, the dinner watch for? It's like actually 100%. There's really no excuses about this watch. There was a watch channel that for some reason he deleted his channel and all his videos, but he did a video describing, what watch should you get, and then you've really got no excuses for spending any more money, and this is everything that you possibly want. And he made the case that it was the Casio Duro. The Casio Duro is fair. That's like $50. It's a solid watch. It actually looks okay. The case design isn't poor or anything like that. I just find some aspects of it look cheap. So they're, it visually looks a little cheap. I like the watch, but I use it only for super hard wearing stuff. This, on the other hand, doesn't come with a crappy strap like the Duro, and there's nothing, quote unquote cheap about it, and it's beautiful. So let's get stuck into it and let's take a closer look. So yes, the BB58, I've had it for a year and a half. I got it just after Christmas, the year before last, and this is what it looks like after a year and a half of wearing it in probably the roughest conditions of all I wear my watches, although I do wear my Rolexes hiking and stuff like that. So, not entirely true that this one has seen the most wear, but, I don't know, you tell me whether I baby the watch or not. I wear them all the time. I wear them to bed. If I'm going out for an activity, I will be wearing a watch. Yeah, I wear them, basically. Yeah, I wear them. I wear them all the time. It's just my life isn't that crazy. I do handyman things around the house at best. Like the other day, I fixed all the keys around the house, the locks, so they're all sticky because of all the dust here in Vegas. And, I got accidentally sprayed some graphite onto my Explorer 2. Not a big deal. Graphite's not a huge risk. I'll wash my car, in a watch. So I don't baby them. I do everything in my life with my watches. Now, other people's lives are rougher than mine. Okay, so that is what it is. So I've got a 6-inch wrist, which is a pretty small wrist. So the fact that this isn't, 40 plus is really fantastic. It does mean that the smaller the diameter on your wrist gets, the amount of adjustment in the bracelet becomes more and more important. I would say this doesn't quite fit me perfectly. Like often I find like the watch sort of hanging a little high, so where it's sort of like hanging on that part of the wrist and doesn't look, centered up. It is a little bit annoying, and the micro adjust isn't enough to get it there. But if you've got a bigger than a 6-inch wrist, which most men do, it's not going to be that much of a problem. I think that there is an Uncle Seiko half link that you can get for a reasonable price that will give you that, in between adjustment between the micro adjust holes on this clasp. Let's take a quick look at that. So beautiful clasp, by the way. I mean, this is far superior to Omega. Just much better clasp. And then you can see over here they've got ceramic balls to try and reduce the amount of wear, but still give you a click when you come down over here with the safety clasp. So let's take a quick look. So this isn't like the Rolex where there's an articulating piece at the clasp here. They don't have that sort of hook, but they do have a spring-loaded ceramic ball there. Is it spring-loaded? I don't know if we can see this on camera. Is it spring-loaded or is it just a ceramic ball? There's no way it would just be a ceramic ball. It's spring-loaded. Yeah, it's spring-loaded. Yeah, so these are spring-loaded ceramic balls. So that's how they're achieving that, click feel. Is just a little bit of an indent and a ceramic ball on a spring. And it clicks really nicely. This is far superior than the stupid butterfly springy clasp system on the Speedmaster. The Speedmaster actually has a knack for like just jamming and getting stuck on your wrist, just locked. Like I thought that happened to me, like I was pressing the buttons to deploy the clasp and it just would not come free. So none of that sort of shoddy rubbish for Tudor. This is a beautiful clasp. But you can see here we've only got 3 micro adjusts, which is fine because it spans the length of a full link, right? So it's not an on the time micro adjust, it's just whether or not you can size this to your wrist perfectly. Honestly, if I go down to number 2, it's not quite right. It's a little too tight, and here it's a little too loose, but not by much. Perfect really would be here in the middle. I think if I got a half link, I would then move it to the 1 over here, so number 1, and then with the half link it probably gets me to this position where I need to be. So I may do that. I've been trying not to invest any money into this watch, like getting straps and getting that half link, just because, I don't know, I didn't want to like this watch. When I first saw the BB58, my initial impression was, meh. Okay, all right. For the most part, I said, like, if you want a Submariner, especially an older Submariner, the big sub, which this is fashioned after, I always felt that if you want like a big crown sub, then buy the big crown sub. But more and more I realized, like in trying to purchase like a 1980s GMT, vintage is really tricky. Like it's a very tricky proposition. It isn't just a case of, oh, you bought this because you couldn't afford the big crown sub. Now, a lot of Tudor owners are already Rolex owners, so they can afford it. The issue is like actually obtaining one, and then once you obtain one, it's not going to have the water resistance that this does, and the modern movement, quite frankly, and the price. Like, vintage watch, it's going to be a lot more expensive than this, and you don't want to put it through the same rubbish that you're going to put this watch through. So yeah, just the prospect of like, yeah, getting a vintage or an actual vintage sub and then trying to use it as your daily beater, not really a good concept, but it would be fun. And that's what this gives you. This gives you the fun of getting a Rolex, you know, an old Rolex Submariner and using it as your daily because you're cool. It's modeled after Big Crown Sub. As I said, I was really put off with the idea that it was like, oh, it's got faux patina, you know, it's not a true white glow, and they're using gilt. It's like, if I want something that looks old, I'll buy something that is old. But as I said, it's just not that realistic to do. You can do it and I applaud you, but it's really not an option for the masses, you know, and quite frankly, I'm middle class. I'm not elite, I'm middle class, you know. Just want a little bit of middle class luxury. I don't need this piece to become my life, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. I think on the sort of like the faux vintage side of things, the most objected to aspect are the links. And, you know, over time, you would come to realize that without the faux rivet, so this line coming across and down on the edges of each link, this would be just a much more boring watch, quite frankly. And then even when you look at it from like side profile, like when it's on your wrist, it'd just be a far more boring watch. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't have something to like break up the look, this is just a very beautiful looking watch. Now, if you compare this to say, and I saw it, like you compare it to say like the Pelagos 39 or, you know, the Ranger, Explorer, there's more to look at here because you've got the diver's bezel and let me do this. Let's go near the mic and, oh, and 60 clicks. It's lovely, isn't it? And this is a superior dive bezel movement. You know, the feel is much better than most luxury watches out there. It really, really delivers. Now, is it better than the Submariner? No, it just actually isn't. The Submariner does feel better, but this is really excellent, very satisfying, a very clean sounding click. And I do use it and it is easy to operate. These grooves do give you enough purchase to be able to operate the bezel very easily and quickly. So really note the bezel is definitely a positive for this watch. The one thing that I'm not entirely sure about is the hands, the gilt hands. I don't know. I guess I'm just used to looking at you know, hands on a Rolex, I guess, and these aren't at the same quality, but I'm not, you know, enough of an expert in terms of finishing to describe exactly what is giving me the impression that these hands are not quite at the same level of a Rolex. They seem just a little bit too straight cut, I guess you could say. So someone else might say it's finishing, but you know, honestly, I don't really know what finishing means. Like, I don't actually know what it means. Like, what process hasn't been done to make these look, you know, next level. So I would say the hands could be slightly better, but it's certainly not something that bothers me. The indices look incredibly good, and the text and every element is executed so well. The one thing that is potentially a little bit of a gap in terms of quality, or at least impression, is the crown stem. I don't know if you can see it. Let me take it off. It doesn't bother me, but I'm a little bit more used to crowns that will sit a little closer to flush, and on the BB58, it has been reduced. So you can see here, you can actually see the crown stem, which, well, not the stem, what am I saying? This part, the barrel, right? So if I just pop that out, pops out, comes out really nicely. So this is one thing that I really love about it, is that when you bring it all the way out, see how far away from the case that is? It means that you can just operate this with ease no matter how big your fingers are. It's beautiful. And then the big crown, it's just a joy to operate, quite frankly. And then the winding on this is really nice. It's just got a little bit of a ratchety feel. I mean, ratcheting, not ratchet. Just a little bit of ratchet feel, just a slight springy tension going through. I wouldn't say it's better than a Rolex, but it's better than a lot. So for example, the watch I spend winding the most would be a Speedmaster. And because of the crown guards and you wind it in position 1, it doesn't have a screw down crown. The Speedmaster is easily the worst watch to wind up despite being manual wind. So yeah, it doesn't go all the way flush with the case, but I don't think that's a flaw. It's just sort of, in most positions, it allows you to see the full width of the crown, which is actually quite nice. Otherwise, in most positions, you'd see it sort of hiding behind a little bit. And it means that they don't need to put like an extra wide crown to give it this sort of look, you know what I mean? So it's a sort of a slender crown, if not a lot of depth, but it still pops out a little bit so that it's always visible. So I think there's a sort of a visible symmetry to that. The Black Bay 54 is a smaller watch, so it does look different, so not a big deal. This case shape is absolutely beautiful. It is perfectly proportioned. I mean, look at that. It is perfect. And I've been really enamored by the Ranger, and it's pretty much got the same case, you know what I mean? And half of the reason I want the Ranger is because I want that case. And I've already got that case. I really need to stop here. I really need to stop here. So again, the reason I'm making this video is because I really think if you get a watch that's less than this, you are really doing yourself a disservice. You will replace that watch. You will. It's probably not as good as this. And this is the level at which, this is a keeper. You know what I mean? At this level, this is a keeper. It's worth enough that you will get it serviced, and it's Rolex, RSC service. So it's relatively easy to find a place to service it. So it's not a case of like, I got some weird micro shitter brand who's going to fix it for me, that sort of thing. No, you'll go to RSC. And that's a big factor, you know what I mean? It's worth enough that it'll be worth servicing. It's a Tudor, so the servicing costs aren't going to be extraordinary. And this will keep running, you know what I mean? They'll keep this going for you. It's really that simple. And right now, you can get this. I think it's about 4,000 MSRP and then plus tax. It's getting to be an expensive watch. You can get this watch right now for about like $2,500 on eBay. And eBay does seem to be the place to do it. I mean, grey dealers sort of don't want to operate much below the 10,000 mark. It's just not enough margin, not enough gross to be able to put a margin on. No one's going to pay 1,000 over an eBay price for this. So eBay does seem to be the place to do it. I can't recommend exactly how to buy it on eBay, like, making sure it's authentic and stuff like that. So you're going to have to find some advice and figure that out. But I mean, I cannot, why would you pass this up if you get one for like 2.5? Really? There's no reason to get a watch less than this. I mean, yeah, I mean, $2,500 is still a lot of money. It's a luxury watch still, but come on, man. Come on. If it, like, what are you spending $2,500 on that's better than this? You know what I mean? This is your next $2,500. This is where it goes. This is where it goes. And you can spend a lot more money, right? Like, I've got a lot of Rolexes. I've got the Speedy. I'm looking to get, you know, more expensive stuff, but they're probably not going to get more wrist time than this. It's really, that's the case. Like, those are true luxuries, and like, I just absolutely don't need it. This you can wear everywhere. You know, it's not like a huge new Submariner where, you know, it's, you know, a little gaudy in certain situations. It's not a Rolex, which is sometimes a huge positive. So I was doing a big presentation at work the other day, and I just wanted something a little bit, you know, straight shooting, you know, a little less jewelry-like, a little less objectionable. This is it. This is it. This goes with you everywhere. You take it hiking, you take it swimming. This is my hot tub watch. I go in the hot tub with this. Yeah, to take it swimming. I love cooking with this watch. You know, my ultimate cooking watch is a stainless steel watch all around, because you've got splashing, you know, oils and hot stuff going around. So you need steel, and you need a diver bezel to be able to time stuff. Now, I wish it was a retrograde diver bezel so that you can go the other way. Is that retrograde? Whatever the Yachtmaster one is called. The Yachtmaster is a little better. But yeah, you need that. And look, after a year and a half, I don't think there's a single scratch on the aluminum. The sapphire and the bezel protectors and just the shape of the case, it does evidently a reasonably good job of protecting that. And look, if you do end up scratching the bezel, right, when you put it in for service, you can get it replaced. I'm sure the aluminum bezel is not like a hugely expensive thing, but look, eventually you're just going to get used to it. You're going to get used to your watch's scratches. It'll be yours. There'll be no need to replace it. There'll be no need to spend that extra money. This watch is yours. All right, so I'm going to go about my day. This has been fun. A little reflection on one of my favorite pieces. There's no real excuse, guys. You don't need a watch that's more than this. You're just being a little bit of a punce if you go for more than that. And anything less than that is absolutely less than that. So until next time, I'm Aussie Expat. Please like and subscribe, and see you next time.